What was the motivation behind starting the Teagasc Pig Farmers Conferences 30 years ago?
I think we realised that there was a need for a new method of delivering technical information to farmers. Prior to that, we had occasional night meetings, and they always started late, finished late, and people didn't even have a chance to chat. So we decided to use a new format, run the meetings in the afternoon to give people a chance afterwards to socialise. And we also decided to change the format of the meetings and to go for much shorter presentations of around 15-20 minutes, so that people wouldn't have to concentrate for too long. And we also decided to bring out a printed copy of the proceedings that people could take home and study at their leisure.
Oh, I think we're back in a different era altogether in terms of communications. Access to information was much more restricted. It was an opportunity to also to get people together, meeting up with one another, exchanging information, and I'd say there was probably a social aspect to it as well. But I think the main motivation was being able to communicate with a relatively large number of people at one or two or three different centres.
And do you remember, any key moments or key talks over the years from the early conferences that helped shape the industry, maybe?
I think one of the things that I think made a big difference at one stage was the breed evaluation project that we had run, where we compared sire lines and showed that we had genetics in the country that was equally good to anything that was in the neighbouring country. And I think that spurred an interest in genetics in general. And afterwards there was much more emphasis on the fertility side of genetics, and that's shown today in the huge improvement there is in sow productivity over those years.
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint any particular one. I remember one particular where I highlighted the issue of litter size, and this is a personal one, in relation to comparison with various other European countries. We were part of the European Interpig project at that stage, and it was blatantly obvious that our born alive or litter size was completely substandard relative to other European countries. And I think from that, a new emphasis put on breeding and the importance of breeding in relation to litter size. I think that the concept up to that had been that heritability of litter size was low, so therefore there wasn't very much you could do about it. And of course, there was an absence of breeding programs on farms. The breeding program was, I think, very much hit and miss.
There's always been a great appetite for the conference. Why do you think that is?
I think it was very relevant. The topics were relevant to producers. People were impressed by the standard of the presentations, and also the number of foreign visitors or foreign speakers that we brought in over the years. We brought speakers from UK, Denmark, Netherlands, France, Australia, the US and Canada. And I think people got new faces and new voices in delivering some of the technical information. And I think they appreciated that and realised that our industry wasn't too bad as it stood.
Yeah, I think it's I suppose the topics, it was one. Guest speakers, particularly from abroad, was of interest, because you had to really know what was going on in other countries to know what technology was available, what could be used, or what research information was available and accessible to producers. But I also think, obviously, as I said, the topics, and then I think there was the social aspect, as I said earlier on. I think that was important. People got together, they met up. As the number of units declined, the number of pig producers declined, which it did dramatically. I mean, we can go back. I can go back to when there were well over 1,000 pig producers, but 30,000 over at a stage. I think that was probably back in the mid 80s. And I think it was around the time that the specialist pig service advisory service was set up, and now what you're down to maybe a couple of hundred units or a couple of hundred producers. But there was a social aspect to it as well.
And any memorable moments over the years that you'd like to share?
I think the memorable moments are best forgotten. They happened after hours and so on. So I won't give away any secrets.
maybe some, but I wouldn't like to, maybe that I wouldn't like to share. Not particularly, no. No, I always felt that it was it was a challenging 3 days or 2 days as it went on. It was always very, very demanding. There was a lot of preparation, a lot of work put into it, and I felt it was a challenge for advisors and so on to go into new territory to give talks in territory that they weren't known in.
Was there any topics that stand out for you, or speakers that stood out for you, international guests you mentioned?
Most of them were very, very, very impressive, and I think Frankie Hearn, who was a local man from Fermoy, based in Canada, I think he gave an extremely good presentation, or two presentations at the time of his visit. We also had Mike Teagasc from Oklahoma. We had Bruce Mullen from Australia at one stage. We had Leo Den Hartog from the Netherlands. And I think that they all each contributed in their own way to the success of the conferences.
Probably the outstanding speaker was an Irishman who had gone to Canada and had worked there. That was Frankie Hearn. Frank was a real asset to the conference, but not alone that, he had a view of the service and what should have been done and so on outside of the actual talks itself. I always found a good working relationship with Northern Ireland people, particularly Norman Walker, who was a pioneer in the area of dry feeding feeding systems. There's obviously Liz Donnelly, Mark Hogg. You didn't have to go very far to find people that really stood out. Give us Bernie Peterson from Denmark in the very early stages was a very good talk, very good speaker, and very, very interesting stuff on what were key topics at that time.
And after 30 years, what would you say has been the most rewarding aspects of seeing the conference evolve?
I think it remains relevant and remains well supported, which means that the program must have been appropriate to the industry, and I think that even at an early stage we were getting the producers of a very big proportion of the pigs in the country, and I think that was rewarding, and it was satisfying for the organisers, for the pig group organising it, that people did appreciate what was being done.
Well, I think that it's probably a vote of confidence by producers in the service and in being provided by Moore Park and by the Pig Advisory Service, and a recognition that they've contributed in some way, in some small way at least, to the industry's success.